Hi, welcome. Today we're going to read the first lesson of grade 8 NCert English book, The Best Christmas Present in the World, written by Michael Marbogo. The main characters in this story are Mr. Jim Macpherson, Mrs. Connie Macpherson, Mr. Hanswolf, and the author himself. So let's start. I spotted it in a junk shop in Bredport, a roll-top desk. The man said it was early 19th century and oak. I had wanted one, but they were far too expensive. This one was in a bad condition, the roll-top in several places, one leg clumsily bended, scorch marks all down one side. It was going for a very little money. I thought I could restore it. It would be a risk, a challenge, but I had to have it. I paid the man and brought it back to my workroom at the back of the garage. I began to work on it on Christmas Eve. So here the author wanted to buy a roll-top desk. So he searched everywhere and couldn't find one. So what he did was he searched in a junk shop and managed to find one. It was in a very bad condition. The owner of the junk shop said it was old, it belongs to 19th century and made of oak. So the price was a bit low. Earlier when he searched in other places it was very expensive, so he thought that this could be a better deal. So he bought it, he brought it to his house. He knew that it's in a very bad condition. It has got lots of scorch marks there, and one leg was clumsily mended, damaged, so it was going for very little money, and that's the reason why author bought it and brought it home. And he started to work on it. And he removed the roll top completely and pulled out the drawers. The veneer had lifted almost everywhere. So here he knew that it's damaged, as I said before. He knew it's damaged, so he wanted one, so he is ready to take the risk. He removed all those drawers. He removed everything completely, and the veneer, a plastic, you can see here, a thin layer of plastic or decorative wood on furniture of cheap wood. So that was almost lifted up, and it clearly shows that it got damaged mainly because of water and fire that had clearly taken the tolls on the desk. The last drawer was stuck fast. I tried all I could do to ease out it gently. In the end, I used brute force. So the author says that he came to know that it most likely got damaged mainly because of water. That both fire and water had taken its toll. That the scorch marks and the way that the veneer had lifted shows that it also got damaged mainly because of water. The last drawer, so he almost pulled out all the drawers like we saw in the previous page, but one drawer which he couldn't pull it out, the drawer, he couldn't pull it out. It stuck fast. Stuck fast is not much shut tight that he couldn't pull it out. So it stuck fast. I tried all I could do, ease it out gently. So he tried his best to pull the drawer easily, but he couldn't do it. So he has to use his brute force. I struck it sharply with the side of my fist, and the drawer flew open to reveal a shallow space underneath, a secret drawer. So he used this side of his fist to give a sharp punch and managed to pull it out. And when it came out, he saw there is a small space inside in it, a secret drawer inside that. There was something in there. There was something in there. I reached in and took out a small box, a small tin box. So the author managed to remove the tin box. Inside that he found something else. A sellotape to the top of it was a piece of a lined note paper. So something like a paper, lined paper inside the small tin box, sellotaped and handwritten in a shaky handwriting. So something was written there on that in a shaky handwriting. Most likely old woman, not sure. Let's go further and see what is there. So it was written something in a shaky handwriting, and it says Jim's last letter received January 25th, 1915. So on top of the letter it says Jim's last letter received January 25th, 1915, to be buried with me when the time comes. So the owner of the roll-top desk, looks like he or she has kept that letter safely in that secret drawer, and she or he wanted to have along with him when he dies. Like he or she wanted to bury that letter along with him. I knew as I did that it was wrong of me to open the box, but curiosity got the better of my scruples. It usually does. So the author did not want to open the box. However, curiosity, he wanted to see what is inside there. So he decided to open it because the curiosity got the better of the scruples. So it usually does. Inside the box there was an envelope. The address read. So on the tin box, when he opened that, he found that there was an envelope. It reads Mrs. Jim Macpherson. It reads Mrs. Jim Macpherson, 12 Copper Beaches. So it looks like it's the address, 12 Copper Beaches. 12 Copper Beaches, Bredport, Dorset. So that's the address that we see on the envelope, Bredport, Dorset. Alright. I took up the letter and unfolded it. It was written in pencil and dated at the top December 26, 1914. So here you can see the date on which the letter was written. It was written on December 26, 1914 in pencil. Dearest Connie, I write to you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. So the author found something special or some amazing event has happened and that he wanted to share with his wife, who was nothing but Connie Macpherson. So the person who written that letter was Mr. Jim Macpherson, and he has written that letter to his wife, Mrs. Connie Macpherson. We were all standing in our trenches yesterday morning, the Christmas morning. You can see the letter was written on December 26th, so just the next day of the Christmas. So he was telling about an incident that happened the previous day to his wife. We were all standing in our trenches. Trenches is nothing but a long, deep ditches in the ground where soldiers hide from the enemy. So in the war zone, you will find the trenches where the soldiers hide themselves to protect against the enemy. We were all standing in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. It was crisp and quiet all about. As beautiful a morning as I've ever seen, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. So the day was very crisp. It's a Christmas morning. It was crisp, quiet, and a Christmas morning. So it was frosty and as well as cold, like how a normal Christmas morning should be. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it. So the author says that I wanted to tell that I started it, or we, in terms of the Britishers, wanted to start it. But the truth I am ashamed to say is that the Fritz began. Fritz are nothing but a name for a German soldier, a common name for German soldier, Fritz. Fritz is a common name given for a German soldier. I am ashamed to say that. I am ashamed to say is that Fritz began it. First, someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. Then they were calling out to us across no man's land. Happy Christmas, Tommy. Happy Christmas. So the author says that first we saw somebody was showing a white flag or waving a white flag from the opposite trenches. So they were seeing that what is happening, and all of a sudden someone said, Happy Christmas, Tommy, Happy Christmas. So here Tommy is a common name given for the British soldier. Like how Fritz a common name for a German soldier, Tommy is a common name for a British soldier. Happy Christmas, Tommy, Happy Christmas. When we had got over the surprise, some of us shouted back, same to you Fritz, same to you. So it's quite amazing. It's a war zone. You have German soldiers there, the British soldiers there. They're trying to kill against each other. But on all of a sudden, it's Christmas morning, and the Fritz, the German soldiers, they were waving their hands and saying Happy Christmas. Before Jim could realize what is happening, some of his team members, some of his crew members, they start to shout back saying Happy Christmas, same to you Fritz. I thought that would be that. We all did. But then suddenly one of them was up there in his grey coat and waving a white flag. Don't shoot flags. So from the German side, from the French side, a person just started to come out from the trenches waving a white flag and telling not to shoot us. And no one did. Then there was another Fritz upon another. Keep your heads down, I told the men, it's a trick, but it wasn't. So one after another, German soldiers started to come out from the trenches waving their flags, the white flag. It's a symbol of peace. So it tells that we are not here to fight, we just wanted to share. So that's what the German soldiers were trying to say. So Jim was quite surprised by the move, but he told his men it could be a trick, so keep your heads down. But in fact it turned out it wasn't. One of the German was waving a bottle above his head. It is Christmas Day, Tommy. We have schnapps, we have sausages, we meet you. Yes. So one of the German who came from the trenches was wearing a bottle on his head. He says that it's Christmas Day, Tommy. We have schnapps. Schnapps is a common drink, a German drink made from grain. And he also says that we have sausages. We meet you. Yes. By the time there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land, and not a rifle between them. So the German soldiers, they wanted to share the Christmas. They wanted to share the Christmas happiness with the British soldiers. So they brought schnapps, they brought sausages, and they wanted to meet the British soldiers and to have fun on Christmas Day. By this time later, there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land and not a rifle between them. So the soldiers were not having anything in their hand, like rifles, the weapon, the arm, the ammos, nothing was there except the bottles of rum, sausages and schnapps. So little Private Morris was the first up. Come on boys, what are we waiting for? So one of his team members, little Private Morris, like he called it as, was the first up. He said, come on boys, what are we waiting for? Just let's go. And then there was no stopping them. So once he started to move, there was no stopping there. All started to move. So come on boys, what are we waiting for? And then there was no stopping them. I was the officer, I should have stopped them there and then, I suppose. But the truth is that that never occurred. So he says that I am the officer, I am the captain, I am the in charge. I should have stopped all of my team members going there. But I couldn't. I just kept quiet. But the truth is that it never even occurred to me I should. All along that line and ours, I could see men walking slowly towards one another, grey coats and khaki coats meeting in the middle. So he was, as he was trying to stop, or as he was thinking that whether he could stop or not, by the time all the men, the khakis and the grey coats started to mingle together in the middle. And I was one of them. I was part of this in the middle of the war. We were making peace. So he says that all the khakis and the grey coats were all coming and meeting in the middle, and he also one of that person who was also joining with them, and they were trying to make peace in the middle of war zone. Isn't that amazing, that having peace in the middle of a war zone? You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, he says. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into my eyes as a Fritz officer who approached me, hand outstretched. Hands up, he said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it. I am from Düsseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. So he says to his wife that he couldn't control the tears in his eyes, like he saw a Fritz officer, a German officer, probably a captain, who approached him and hand outstretched. He wanted to shake hands with him, and his name is Hans Wolf, he said, and he is from Düsseldorf. He plays cello in the orchestra before joining army. Captain Jim Macpherson, I replied, and a happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. So when Hans Wolf said that happy Christmas and introduced himself that he is from Düsseldorf and also a cello, he is also a person who plays cello in the orchestra. So Jim Macpherson introduced himself and he also said happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. So Jim Macpherson belongs to Dorset, and he used to be a teacher before joining the army. So he introduced himself. So you can see both these men, before joining the army, they were in different jobs. Like Hans Wolff played cello in orchestra, and Jim Macpherson was a teacher in school in the west of England. So as the conversation was going on, Hans Wolff said, "Oh, Dorset," he smiled. "I know this place. I knew it very well, or I know it very well. We shared my rum ration and this excellent sausage, and we talked. Connie, how we talked." So he was explaining to his wife about the conversation that they had, and the rum they shared with them, the sausages, everything. But it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset. So he was giving more information about Dorset. Hans Wolff, who never been to Dorset, however, he was giving more information about Dorset. That's what he says here. But it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset. Set foot in Dorset means never ever been to Dorset. Never ever been to England. He had learned all he knew of England from school. So whatever he knew about England is all through reading books or from learning from school. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books in English. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book, Far from the Madding Crowds. So out there in no man's land, we talked of Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. So they discussed about Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak and Sergeant Troy, and also about Dorset. He had a wife and one son born just 6 months ago. So Hans Wolff has a wife and a son who was just 6 months old. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khakis and grey everywhere, all over no man's land, smoking, laughing, drinking, and whatnot. So they were having a happy time out there. Like I said before, the khaki uniforms and the grey coats, soldiers, they were smoking there, laughing there, talking, drinking, eating. Hans Wolff and I shared what was left of our wonderful Christmas cake. Connie, he thought that the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. I agreed. We agreed about everything, and he was my enemy. So they had a wonderful Christmas cake. They ate the cake, and he said that the marzipan was the best he had, and Jim was also agreed to it. And he was his enemy, right? Jim Macpherson and Hans Wolff, they both were enemies, but they agreed to each other's opinion. There never was a Christmas party like it, Connie, he says. So you never would have a Christmas party like this. Then someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. So just amazing, right? It's a war zone, and people are having cake here and playing football. I don't know how they managed to find one, but the author, Jim Macpherson, says that someone, I don't know, who brought out a football. Great coats were dumped into piles to make a goal post. So obviously, to play football, you need to have goal posts on both the sides. So they dumped all the coats that they were wearing and made it as a goal post. And the next thing you knew, it was Tommy against Fritz, out in the middle of no man's land. So both Tommy and Fritz, like England and Germany match. Wolff and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. So they both were happily enjoying by watching the game. They were clapping hands, stamping their feet, so much fun that they had. And there was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us, since it's a very frost and cold day, cold morning. So obviously, when we breathe in or breathe out, we see the air coming out of the mouth and as we breathe. So they both were sitting opposite to each other, or probably sitting next to each other. So when they speak, the air just passes, crosses, and it mingles, right? Just amazing, two enemies. And Jim is explaining it in a very beautiful way, that there was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us. He saw it too and smiled. Jim Macpherson, he said after a while, I think this is how we should resolve this war. So Jim, he says that this is the best way that we could resolve war. A football match. No one dies in a football match. No children are orphaned. No wives become widow. So in football, what happens? You win, you lose, nothing is going to be right. So they suggest that to come to a conclusion of a problem between two countries, the best way to do that is to have a football match. I would prefer cricket, I told him. So Jim belongs to England, right? So cricket is very famous in England. Maybe in Germany, football is famous. So Jim says that I would prefer cricket. I told him. Then we Tommies could be sure for winning. Probably. We laughed at it and together we watched. So they both were happily discussing that Jim says that I would prefer cricket. If we're going to have a match between two countries, and I would prefer cricket because sure we will win it. We laughed at it and then together we watched the game. Sad to say, Connie Fritz won 2-1. So he says that it is very sad that Fritz won. Germany won the match 2-1. But as Hans-Wolf generously said, our goal was wider than that, so it was quite fair. It wasn't quite fair. But Hans-Wolf was very generous in accepting, in saying that our goal post was wider, so that's the reason why we managed to put 2 goals, and that's the reason why we won it. The time came, and all too soon, when the game was finished, the schnapps and the rum and the sausages had long since run out. And we knew it was all over, had long since run out, and we knew it was all over. I wished Hans well and told I hope he would see his family again soon, that the fighting would end, we all could go home. So finally the time has come, because the rums were over, the schnapps were over, everything was over, so they have to go back to their places. So he says that I wished Hans well and told him I hoped he would see his family again, because in the war zone there is no guarantee that you would meet your family. So he wished Hans to see his family again once the fighting is over and we all would go happily to our home. I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides. Hans-Wolf said, "Take care, Jim Macpherson. I shall never forget this moment, not you." He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly. So Hans-Wolf also said, "Take care, Jim. I shall never forget this moment, not you." So he says that you will not forget this moment, so do I. And they both unwillingly started to move to their trenches. I felt he turned out to wave just once and then become one of the 100. So he turned once and said, waved his hand and then drifted along with his members. That night, back in our dugout, we heard them singing a carol and singing it quite beautifully. It was a still night, silent night. Our boys gave them a rousing chorus of Wild Shepherd's Watch. We exchanged carols for a while and then we all fell silent. We had our time to peace and goodwill, a time I will treasure as long as I live. So he says that we both sang songs, carols on that night, and they all become silent afterwards. Dearest Connie, my Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and a terrible memory. I know from all that happened today how much both armies long for peace. We shall be together again soon, I'm sure of it. So at the end he says, dearest Connie, by Christmas next year, this war will be over, but it will be a terrible memory with lots of deaths. And I hope that I shall see you together, I shall meet you again soon. Your loving Jim Macpherson. So that's where he stops the letter.